Today's episode is brought to you by Positively Productive Systems, whose mission is to be the antidote to your stress and to provide compassionate productivity resources and coaching that help you heal and achieve. Be sure to check out both free and paid resources at positivelyproductive.com/resources.
Once you have a taste for that feeling that you get when you extend your hand to someone else and give, it just fills your heart.
You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a coach certified in time and stress management, helping clients make space for what matters most in their lives. Join me each episode and we'll talk about decluttering, stress management, habits, personalized productivity, gratitude, and so much more. I understand the overwhelm of life because I'm a wife, mom to kids and cats, and a former caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Get your notepad and your tissues ready for today's episode. It is a deeply emotional and beautiful example of resilience, gratitude, creativity, collaboration, and community. You'll hear a story that's a direct result of COVID-19 and proof that when you help others, you always get more than you give. Today, I welcome Jake Doherty to the Positively Living podcast. Jake is an American living in Germany. He's a husband, father, and business owner who has built a life in the Bavarian region for over 20 years. For 11 years, he's been the owner of a boutique tour guide service, one that served both visitors and groups like the Wounded Warriors Project. In March 2020, his tour company closed due to COVID-19. He pivoted to a new company, Deri Dari, an online platform in the United States where chefs sell interactive live cooking experiences coupled with ingredient delivery. When I heard this story, I was struck by Jake's creativity, to be sure, but even more, how he was collaborating with others and helping others through this process. I'm reminded of how everything we do can have a ripple effect beyond our imagination. To date, Jake has not only found a way to provide for his family, he's created a way to give to other families. He's helped 36 chefs and counting join his platform. These were chefs with no work prospects, now able to put food on their tables by teaching you how to put food on yours. He's connecting people from across the globe to learn more than cooking skills, to gain cultural knowledge and appreciation. It's the kind of platform that can extend beyond the temporary needs of a pandemic and truly change the way we interact with food and family. You'll hear about his devastating loss and the moment of inspiration that turned things around. He shares huge lessons learned and advice you can most certainly use in your own life. Spoiler alert, one of them is listen to your mother. That one might be my favorite. As a complement to today's episode, I highly recommend listening to episodes 10 on resilience and self-care, 14 on grief, 29 on trauma, 30 on fear, and 33 on change. Jake shares his wisdom and his heart fully today. I hope he inspires you as he has inspired me. Welcome, Jake Doherty, to the Positively Living podcast. You have an incredible story to tell, and I'm so pleased to have you here to share it.
Well, Lisa, thank you for having me.
So, Jake, would you please start by telling us a bit about who you are, who you help, and what makes you light up?
Well, Lisa, first off, thank you for having me today on Positively Living. This is quite a pleasure. Yeah, who I am? I'm originally from South Louisiana, a little town called Lafayette. I went to college in Atlanta, Georgia, where I studied history and philosophy. And then I got out and realized, A, I probably couldn't get a real job, so to speak, and B, I didn't really want one. So I loved European history. I loved Europe itself. I worked in a bar in New Orleans for a little bit and then hopped on a plane and went to Europe 23 years ago and never left.
I love that. I mean, that's the bold adventurer that I think so many of us wish that we were. And I say kudos to you for that right from the start. And now, where are you located?
Well, now I live in a small village called Garmisch-Partenkirchen, Germany. It's right on the border of Germany and Austria. It was home to the 1936 Winter Olympics. It's got the tallest mountain in Germany in our backyard called the Zugspitze. And we had the 2011 World Championships of Skiing and the G7 Summit a couple of years ago as well. So it's quite a little happening spot, so to speak.
Well, I'll say, and I happen to know it's also a gorgeous spot. I'm partial to the Bavarian region of Germany because of my mom. And so I appreciate that. We could probably talk food all day, and I don't think anybody would mind. But I would love to back up a bit. So, when you made this bold move and you started to explore your way through Germany and create something for yourself, can you tell us a bit about what it is that you built?
Well, I started off working as a bartender traveling around, but eventually I got hired working for the American military in their recreation departments, specifically in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, Germany. I was bartending, working in the restaurant, and then for a short period of time, teaching people how to ski, snowboard, kayak, mountain bike, and hike. And then I transitioned very easily into tour guiding. I seem to be quite adept at it, knowing my history background. So I started working for the American military as a tour guide, and then eventually left that job, traveled a bit more, went to Austria, Italy, Switzerland, came back to Garmisch because it always kind of held my heart. And so I came back, and I guess it was about 11 years ago, I opened my own tour guide agency called All Things Garmisch, where we do private tours, outdoor recreation, and team building. Now, we do a lot of team building for the transition units, the Wounded Warrior Program and the Red Cross. They bring these young men and women who've been injured in conflict, American soldiers, and we take them to places like BMW where they get to talk to the engineers or take them horseback riding or do fun events for them. And then our day-to-day sort of bread and butter, so to speak, was taking people to Neuschwanstein Castle, the inspiration for Walt Disney's Princess Castle and Sleeping Beauty.
You helped share what it is that you love about where you are with any visitor who would come your way. And this went on for, well, you said it was 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
However, we are now recording this in 2021, and the year prior for all of us globally has been a doozy. And that's probably an understatement.
Yeah.
We're in the middle still of a pandemic, and things changed for you. So, would you tell us a bit about what happened?
It was a soul wrenching moment. My wife and I, we had gone to visit some friends in South Africa for a wedding in February. We came back at the beginning of March. And in a matter of 2 weeks, I lost over $120,000 in confirmed bookings and had to let go of my staff of 8 people, which were tour guides and marketing, et cetera, et cetera. It was very hard because immediately I realized that everything was in jeopardy, everything that I built. But what was the hardest for me, twofold, knowing that I was giving up something that I truly loved and adored, and then that constant fear that I wasn't going to be able to provide for my family. And that was what put me down for quite some time. As they say, I wallowed in it for a while.
Understandably.
Yeah, you have to, though, you have to find a way to rise up. You have to, as they say in the entrepreneur world, you have to pivot and you have to find a way to make ends meet.
I often like to share the gif of the Friends episode where they're trying to bring a couch up the stairs and or down the stairs. I can't remember which, but it's like pivot, pivot, shut up, shut up, shut up.
Pivot.
And so that word gets used and abused. There's a lot of words that get used and abused, but this is why I think it's so important to share the true stories behind, what this is and what this means. I can imagine how quickly it happened. It must have, I don't know, you could freeze in that moment.
A lot of people did.
Even in trying to process what was going on, right?
I watched a lot of my fellow tour guides and friends that I had been working with for years who are still stuck. They don't know where to go or what to do next or how to rise above the challenge.
And that's what I was going to ask is what you saw was happening in your community as well.
Yeah, it was hard. It was so just to give you an idea, the town of Fussen, Germany, which sits right on the border of Germany and Austria, most of the people that live there in one way or another work indirectly or directly for Neuschwanstein Castle. And just the other day, I looked at the newspaper and there are I counted 42 apartments for rent, 42 in that small village. the whole economy of that area is destroyed. And there's no idea as to when it's going to come back. In fact, they just announced another lockdown here in Germany. So we don't know.
Man, I need a moment. That just, that breaks my heart. So yeah, it's completely understandable that you would be frozen in that moment. But one of the things you said in describing this, yes, this was soul wrenching, and yes, you wallowed and you needed to, but at some point you need to stand up, brush yourself off and go, what's next?
Exactly.
So please share, what was that moment where you're like, okay, I got to do something. And then what did you do? Would you please share that?
I did a lot of things. The first thing I did is I started packaging up boxes with beer glasses from Bavarian breweries and shipping them to my clients to try and make ends meet. I then started looking for work here in Germany, doing anything from stocking shelves to cleaning floors. And one night, I ended up going to a dear friend of mine's restaurant, which was closed. And we walked in and we sat down at one of the empty tables. And it was very eerie because it was just a beautiful restaurant. It is a beautiful restaurant. And to have it be so empty. And we sat there and we were having a beer, and he was talking about how he had to let go of all of his chefs and how he had to let go of all of his staff. And he did not know if he was going to get them back. And right then and there, I realized that I wasn't alone. There were so many people that were suffering. And I wanted to do something that could help. And so I reached out to another friend of mine who also works in the service industry. He's the head chef of over 6 restaurants here in the Alps. Excuse me, also an expat, an American. He was originally a police officer from Florida, decided to follow his dreams, went to culinary school, and now oversees 6 restaurants in the Alps. Isn't that crazy? His name was Jonathan Graver. And Jonathan and I were talking, and we realized that right now, all over the world, there were chefs, culinary trained chefs, who could not find work, that were desperate to put food on their tables, to find a way to feed their families. And so we decided to try and help. Coming from a travel background, I knew that I could create a platform similar to what's called an online travel agency, where chefs could onboard. They could then load up content, create courses in the form of their recipes or their kitchen skills or meal planning. And they could sell these courses using our platform and our technology, our video conferencing software, to people around the world. And I thought, that's a fun idea. And so then Jonathan and I started playing with it, and we started coming up with ways to kind of enhance it. And we thought, well, why don't we offer ingredient delivery as well? And so that's how it came about. And that was the birth of Deri Dari. Deri Dari is an old Bavarian word, and it means an exchange of services. And it's appropriate because all of us that work for the business in the upper management, we all at one time or another worked in Bavaria. So we decided to use that name. It's also the name of a bar around the corner from where we all used to live when we worked in Garmisch-Partenkirchen. And it was appropriate too, because it also means, it kind of sums up what the platform is. It is an exchange of services. We allow the chefs to exchange their skill to provide a way for people and friends and family to connect around the world over a hot meal. And so, yeah, so that's what it is. It's a platform where chefs on board, they create content, and then they sell it in the form of live interactive cooking experiences that we couple with ingredient delivery in the United States so that families and friends can connect, cook a meal, laugh, giggle, and find a way to reach out to each other.
And that's exactly what's happening here. There's so much connection happening in what you've created. You're connecting with others who are in the same boat as you, saying, can we keep this from sinking completely? Let's work together. So there's that. Then you're connecting with people across the world on your platform to learn and to grow, to eat together. So that's such a community thing as it is. And then on top of that, you were mentioning to me, right, that because it's the online platform, because it's live and it's interactive, people can have their family from other locations join in, right? So again, because we have different places in various stages of lockdown and people who cannot travel, they can still connect together so they can have extended family get together, right?
That's my favorite part. So when you go to the platform to book an experience, you go and find either a specific menu item that you've always wanted to learn how to cook, like a souffle or a really interesting soup, like a butternut squash soup, or like meal planning. So we've got just brought a chef in who is trying to help people who are suffering from chemotherapy and who are in the process of chemotherapy to provide meals that are easier on their stomachs that, help with this very trying and hard time on their bodies. And so you then can book this experience, set up a date and time so you can have this live interaction with a chef using our video conferencing. And when you set it up, you can decide how many households. And those households can be anywhere in the world. And we allow up to 6 households on any particular course. But if you need more, it's no problem. Just reach out to the chef. We have a chat feature so you can talk to them direct. You bring those 6 households together with a chef and you all cook together, no matter where you are in the world.
That's incredible. And I love the uniqueness of this too, in that it's live, because I will say this, for quite some time now, even, as an entrepreneur myself, I have stepped into the virtual world. I've been doing coaching on Zoom far, far before suddenly life became, let's connect on Zoom. And I'm so grateful for it. I've always been grateful for this connection. I mean, the fact that I'm in the US, you're in Germany, and we're having a chat and we're sharing these ideas and this inspiration. And yeah, I mean, that we can do that, technology is incredible. But the thing that makes it extra special, I think, is when it can be a live share.
I agree 100%.
Right? In the conversation, in the energy. And that is something I think is so unique about your platform, because there are amazing platforms out there, lots of courses. I'm sure tons of people have been studying and getting certifications. I just did a presentation for a chapter of my National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals. And the list of certifications that these women had gotten during the last year, right, because of the downtime and everything, it was phenomenal. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to teach you, but let's give this a shot. That's wonderful that there's so much that we can learn, but there's that one element, I think, of community and in-person connection that you are answering here.
Yeah, I agree. As I like to tell everybody, a YouTube chef can't tell you when your pot's about to boil over or when the oven's too hot and the smoke's coming out. So that's what we try to recreate, is that sense of connection. So yeah, thank you. You summed it up perfectly, Lisa.
Well, I get excited about food. I'm not going to lie. But, it's so much more than that, though. And that's where we kind of bring this back to. It's not just people and cultures, but it's community. And the fact that community does cross the divide. When I first learned about what you did and where you were located, I was like, yay, Bavaria. But it's not specific to that. You're talking about chefs across the globe as well, and cuisine of all kinds, right?
Correct. We just brought in a chef from South Africa. We have 2 chefs from Mexico. We have currently 33 chefs from the United States, and we're bringing on a new chef right now for the United Kingdom, as I just learned a couple of minutes ago before this interview. So we are trying to bring that international flavor to the platform as well, plus that ability to connect and ask questions. I mean, can you imagine what you can learn, not just about cooking, but just about culture from somebody from South Africa? I mean, it's amazing.
I was just thinking that, and I was thinking about the fact that, over the, I would say last 5 years, very much so, we've done a lot of research in my family, gone on Ancestry. And I have a really amazing story just in terms of like my birth family and everything. And, finding out sort of the where you're from, and what your roots are. And of course, there are shows dedicated to this. It's part of our identity and our growth. And then, of course, one of the things that's a personal value of mine that I want to bring to the show constantly is diversity and inclusivity. And so this is a way, like you said, you're not only learning about a particular cuisine from a particular culture that you may not be connected to, but you'd like to learn and become connected to, but you can actually ask the person who's teaching you. You can learn so much more. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. I can't wait to talk to the guy from South Africa. I love that country. We had so much fun when we were there right before all of this began.
Well, this is incredible. One of the things that I sort of had in my brain about this whole process, and anytime we go through something that's really devastating, we need time to process it and to grieve. We need time to come out of it, so to speak, to step out of it. And in this case, troubleshoot, create something new. When we're doing that, I think a lot of reflection that naturally comes with it. So I was curious what your thoughts were about lessons learned, things that you might have done differently, things that you were glad that you did that kind of pulled into this new chapter that you're going into.
Let's see. The first one would be listening to my mother. My mother is an incredible woman, and she was quite an inspiration when I was a child. And listening to her lessons throughout my childhood has really become the cornerstone of who I am today. And later on in the program, I assume you're going to ask me a question that it's going to bring that back into focus. But that has to be the first foundation. The second thing that I would maybe consider changing, honestly, I probably would have launched Deri Dari in Germany instead of the United States. That's the only thing I might have changed. But now that I've done it in the platform, we did our beta in Philadelphia. We are now nationwide with delivery services all over the East Coast and actually San Francisco and Los Angeles. I'm very happy that we did it this way now. But at the time when I was doing it, it was such a challenge because I have never owned a business in the United States. And so that was a lesson that was hard learned. I've owned 3 businesses here in the European Union, and it's a very different process. So just learning that process. And then one of the things I'm most proud of is our newest product, which is coming in June, end of May, beginning of June, is our Kids Cook Camp. So right now with COVID, kids are not going to be able to go to summer camp. And so I'm very proud that we actually have a Kids Cook Camp where children as young as 8, all the way up to age 19, can join with a chef and 4 other people from around the world, children from around the world, and cook together and learn kitchen skills. And for the older kids, it's a great way for them to prep for when they're leaving the nest. So that's the thing I'm probably the most proud of right now, is that's our new project. And we just got it off the ground, and we're actually going to start advertising it tomorrow. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You're the first to hear it, Lisa.
Woohoo! Yes. And it won't have been very long when you listen to this and you'll know that this is coming. I think this is such a great idea because now you're extending community to another really important part of our population, our children who, I mean, when I think about how different school has been and how limited their social activity has been.
Yeah, I mean, my oldest daughter, who's in the photo behind me, is being homeschooled, and so she doesn't get to see her friends at all. So that's where the idea kind of began. Was I wanted a way for my daughter Annabelle and my daughter Miriam back there to meet new people and have that social interaction, and at the same time learn kitchen skills that they can take on with them into their entire life. So I thought it was a really fun project, and I'm so excited to have it running. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited for you. And I'm also thinking too about some of the things that I've incorporated into my children's lives in general, but now like ramped it up in the same way that you have, thinking about what is it that we can do safely for them to expand their connection to the world and their skills. And one of the things that we've been doing here significantly is bumping up the music that we do in our home.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, my son wanted a bass guitar for Christmas and we were going to make that happen for him. And he inspired me to buy a new guitar. And I hadn't had one in a very, very long time and I'd gotten away from it. And so he inspired me to bring that back. I feel like any of these realms of creativity, music, art, cooking, I feel like they all overlap in that regard because there is that creativity. There's so much to learn from it. There's historical and cultural perspective that goes along with it. And then there's simply that, I keep using the word community, but it's so important that, think about it. You find someone who has, the same favorite food that you do. Do you know how many people I've bonded over tacos with?
Taco Tuesday.
Yeah. I'm like, do you like tacos? We can be best friends.
So true.
Right? It's a real thing. So I love that you did that. Is there anything else about your path that you've taken so far that you'd like to share with us, or any other perspectives or thoughts that I didn't think to ask?
Well, there's just 2 things in my life that have kind of become a driving force. And one of them is my family, my mother, my wife, my children, even my little dog. They're the glue that holds me together and keeps me driving forward and keeps me looking for that pivot, that way to continue to take care of them and to care for myself. So always lean on your family. That's always something that I try and teach everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing is my desire to try and help. I don't know, I assume it was from my mother that I got this desire, but once you have a taste for that feeling that you get when you extend your hand to someone else and give, it just fills your heart. And so that's something that I'm very proud of. You get so much more than you give.
Yeah.
So a great example, Lisa, and I used this recently when I was talking to a minister in Texas by the name of Boyd. When I was working with the Wounded Warrior Project and the Red Cross, I didn't know this. I was in a meeting with some representatives of the Red Cross and two women who were hard as nails. One was probably in her early 60s. The other one was in her late 50s. And boy, I just remember in that meeting just how difficult it was to work with them. When the meeting was over, we all went and sat down and had a cup of coffee at the local coffee shop. And I didn't know who these women were, so I started addressing them and talking to them. And they were working for a joint project between the Red Cross and the Wounded Warrior Project. And their job, and this was during the height of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, when on average 15 to 20 planes would land a day at Ramstein Air Force Base with injured soldiers. And these women, they had a small little makeshift shack on that airfield. And their job was to run out to the planes with a clipboard. And they would hold the hand of the child that was on the gurney and ask them what they wanted. What do you want? And every one of those kids, every one of them, and these two women having coffee with me, I will never forget this. They both just kind of looked at each other and teared up, kind of like I am now. And they looked at me and they said, every last one of those children wanted to see their mom. That was their job, was to get the mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters of these young children, these young soldiers, to Ramstein so they could be with their family. And so that right there was a defining moment in me. Just having coffee and hearing the story and realizing that this is something you have to try and make a part of your heart. You have to give a part of your heart to do this, to help others. And Deri Dari was born of that. It was born to try and help chefs. There's so many chefs that can't find a job. They can't feed their kids.
Yeah.
And so it's not nearly the contribution those women did, but that's what we tried.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I love that I learned from Mallory Jackson in my episode on trauma was that we don't compare despair and we don't compare joy. We just don't compare. You are giving back. And I'll tell you right now that part of it, the helping others part, is why we connected, why I wanted you here, and why I wanted to share your story. And it's how we create this brilliant ripple effect in this world. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Okay, so given that, and one last thing I was thinking was, how many chefs are we talking about that you've connected with and have involved so far?
Right now, we have 36 chefs onboarded to the platform, mothers with kids who interrupt during the cooking courses. We have Christian and his husband who cook together, which is a lot of fun, and they do a great job. Then we have chefs like Joshua Northcutt, who was the head chef of 3 restaurants in Philadelphia. So yeah, we have 34 and more signing up daily. That just brings a smile to my heart, I guess you could say, because that's why I love doing this, is giving these people the opportunity to bring an income, to do something that's outside of the industrial kitchen. So a great example is Rebecca, so she can tuck her kids in at night. Or Christian and his husband, they have a young boy that they adopted so they can play baseball with them outside and not have to worry about going to work at 6:00 at night and not be home until midnight. So that's one of the things that I see our platform developing even after COVID.
But this is the kind of thing that has longevity in a completely different way. So well done, I say. Okay, so now that I'm like wiping the tears, but it's just so good. Let's have a little fun, shall we?
Sounds good.
we're going to wrap it up with having you fill in the blanks, please. The song that always makes me dance is?
Well, it would have to be Harry Nilsson's The Coconut Song. I love that song. It always makes me kind
Yes.
of get up and kind of put a little jiggle in my step, so to speak.
The lime in the coconut.
Kick
Yes.
'em
Yeah,
both up.
absolutely. I just shout out to my biz bestie, Liz. We were just talking about Practical Magic, and that's a movie that loves that song. They're dancing around to that song. So I agree. That's going on the Positively Living podcast Spotify playlist,
Awesome.
Dance Playlist Volume 2. All right. So how about the quote or mantra I share all the time is?
Well, once again, as I said, I would bring it back up. It comes to my mother. My parents divorced when I was 8 years old. My mother had to raise me pretty much as an only mom. She put herself through law school. She went on to become an attorney for one of the largest firms in South Louisiana. She never lost a case. Went on to become a federal judge appointed by President Bush Sr., where she served on the bench, was asked to go to the appellate court, refused to do it, and just recently retired so that she could spend more time with her grandkids. And well, as anybody out there knows, a federal judge can't completely retire, but she took what's called senior status. So during my childhood, something that she drilled into my head and something that you will see even in my current pivoting is something that she told me almost every day. Keep your options open. That's my mantra. And I still use it. And I tell my children every single day.
Keep your options open. I love that. All right. Now, how about a resource, book, or app that makes my life easier is?
Well, being that I'm in Germany and that my platform is in the United States and my staff is in the United States and my head programmer is in Berlin, my head of marketing is in Dubai, my business partner, Jonathan, is about 15 minutes down the road. The thing that we use to keep us all running together, two things. We use the EOS system, the entrepreneur system, and then we use Slack. Slack is a great app that we use to try and keep everybody on board, keep everybody focused, and everybody rowing the boat in the same direction. And so I would highly recommend Slack to any entrepreneur who, especially right now, with everybody having to work from home, it's a great way to kind of keep everybody in contact and moving forward.
Yeah, and it plays well with Google, and it keeps everybody on the same page, and that's critical. Okay. And last but certainly not least, what or whom are you grateful for today, Jake?
Wow. Well, whom am I grateful for? Those two women. Yeah. Those hard as nails women. They gave me so much hard time because I was trying to create an event for the soldiers where I was going to take them horseback riding. And it was a challenging event because of the timeline. And God, it was hard to get it all planned with the Red Cross, the Wounded Warrior Project, and those two women always having their input. Man, am I thankful for them every single day.
Beautiful. Well, I'm grateful for you and all that you're doing and all that you're sharing. So please tell us your platform, how we can have this live experience, where we can find you if we have questions. Let us know where to go.
Of course. If you're looking to book a chef and learn anything, all you have to do is go to www.DeriDari.com. Deri Dari. And from there, you'll find all of our chefs, all of our online experiences that you can book. And if you live in the United States and would like ingredients delivered to your home up to 2 days before the event, it's no problem. My team, Laura Stutchley and her logistics team will get those ingredients to you using locally sourced venues, because that's what we like. Organic, farm to table. That's our favorite. And also head on over there. And as Lisa already knows, coming soon, probably by the time you guys hear this podcast, will be our Kids Cook Camp, where the kids get their own little package delivered in the mail with all their cooking equipment, including their chef's hat. And then they get I think it's going to be 7 days or 4 days, depending on the age of the child, where they get to learn kitchen skills and how to make anything from baking a chicken to cupcakes.
I love that. Just a tip, mention that chef's hat thing first. Don't bury the lead. That's important.
Oh, what was I thinking?
I know, right? Yeah. All the other stuff is great, but the chef's hat, oh my gosh, awesome. Okay. I will be sure to have this link in the show notes along with, links to like the Slack app and all the other things that Jake's mentioned. Jake, thank you for shining your light in this world and for sharing it with us today.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for the opportunity. And thank you for creating such a wonderful podcast in Positively Living. I think this is a wonderful platform. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious and limited, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback, questions, or want to schedule a chat, head to positivelyproductive.com/connect. And if you are looking for any of the resources referenced on the podcast, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.